Good morning and welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. I'm Mark Schaffner.
Good morning. I'm Richard Beach.
We've got a great show out for you this morning. In spite of the fact that Richard and I are both dressed in black, we're going to try to be a little bit more of a charming show today, I think.
I think so too. And we've got some inspiration, and that's the cute little guy right behind us.
That's right. That cute little car right behind us is called an AIM. It's an EV concept car. It's their EV1 Sport concept, and it's just I think it's kind of a charming little thing. This car has been designed by Nissan designer Shiro Nakamura, and he wanted to design a more friendly looking EV. He said that EV styles have gotten way too aggressive, and he wanted something charming.
You know, I don't quite know how he made something look cute and fast.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, the lines on this car, they remind me of two different things. The Nissan Z, right? And the Porsche 1911.
Oh, yeah, that Porsche 911 has lines that are kind of similar to this. And, well, you know, Nakamura is no slouch, really, when it comes to car design either. He is, as an ex-Nissan designer, was one of the leaders of the 350Z design. But he's also designed ostensibly cute cars with the Nissan Juke, as well as the Nissan Cube.
Well, he's got one that's not so cute that he's designed. It's very mean.
Yes.
R35 GTR.
Yes. And, you know, I wasn't really familiar with that particular one until I took a look and saw that I could go and buy a used GTR for about $150,000.
Or on a good day, you know, for a steal, maybe salvage tile, 90 grand.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think I'm going to stick with my Model Y or my Model S if I'm going to spend that kind of money.
Agreed.
So questions already starting to come in, comments already starting to come in. Thank you guys. Keep those questions coming. First, George is here with us from the Watch Rich Rebuilds channel. It says, good morning to the 103rd episode. I actually think for this one we're at 102 because last Thursday was episode 100.
I think he's probably counting yesterday's Roadster.
He probably is.
Yep.
Says he's not going to be able to stay all day today, but George, we're sure glad you joined us early.
Absolutely.
And then young Johanna Lon from Instagram says nice.
Yep.
Thanks.
We agree.
Thank you so much. You know, we've got a lot to go over today, especially when it comes to the Tesla earnings call. We said on Tuesday that we would have all kinds of information for you on that earnings call today, and we certainly do. I'll get started, and then I'm going to hand it over to Richard. Just a quick recap, the finance stuff. Tesla reported earnings of 91 cents per share on just under $25 billion in revenue. It was $24.927 billion. It beat estimates from Wall Street. They had estimated 80 cents a share on $24.22 billion revenue. It did not, however, meet Tesla's earlier stated goal that the investors are pegging the company for, which is 50% year-over-year growth. Therefore, shares are down this morning.
It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
How can you, I don't understand how a company can say, hey, we earned a little shy of 25 billion this quarter. And investors are like, oh, that's not good enough.
Not good enough. Yeah, they've kept their profit margins up. Their gross profit was still at almost 19%. So yeah, it's puzzling to see how the stock will go down when it's pretty much all good news there.
Yeah.
But why don't you tell us? I read a little bit afterwards. You had a chance to listen to a lot of the presentation yesterday. So tell me some of your thoughts, what you saw.
Yeah. So I mean, they covered everything from the vehicle side of the company, Neuralink, Optimus, AI, power, all of it. They covered everything in great detail. I was able to sit down for some of the Q&A. And the responses, I mean, the first thing I have to say is, I mean, Elon is hysterical. There were some points where, you know, you could just tell he let his mouth fly. And he didn't have too much, he didn't have any rain on his tongue when some verbiage came out, and we'll get to that. But I figure I'll start with the numbers too. So the 25 billion, a little lower, was another record for Tesla. More records they set. They produced 479,700 vehicles. That's insane. Then delivered for 466,140, adding again to the record. They were very, very happy with that. The Model Y became the top selling vehicle. It, I believe, officially unseated the Toyota Corolla
as the top selling vehicle. That would be in the world then, because the Corolla has been the world's top selling vehicle.
Yep, correct.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
They were all excited about that. I believe they started off the Q&A with that. I think that was in Elon's opening remarks. So you could tell that they're rather excited about that.
Yeah, well, the Model Y has been a rock star hit for them. It's been absolutely amazing.
Oh, yeah.
So here on Instagram, Sue Gupta has said, I want to make my own ESC. May I get some information? And BLDC motor also.
I think ESC is Electric Vehicle Service Center. EV Service Center, maybe?
Yeah, and brushless DC motor.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, and that's one that we will pass forward to Pete. I know that the Gruber Motors has been busier. I like to use the euphemism of busier than a one-armed paper hanger. Yeah, they've been going just crazy busy. So we have not had a lot of chance to be able to do things like produce learning videos and show how to do that stuff. But there may be tips and pointers that we can get over to you.
Absolutely. That's something that we'll queue for Pete upon his return.
Yes, definitely will. So why don't you keep going with that?
Yeah. So they did state that the margin was, quote, down, but manageable. Not outside of the healthy realm. I didn't get an exact number on what percent it was down, but they did say margin was a little down. They still are retaining their goal of 1.8 million vehicle deliveries in this year.
That's impressive.
Yeah, that's an insane amount of full functioning vehicles to produce. That it still boggles my mind. 4860 production was up 80%.
That's good.
Absolutely, and their scrap bill is down 40%. So they are not scrapping as much as they had in the previous quarter.
That tells me that they're getting a lot more efficient at building those 4680 packs. That bodes well for the long-range rear-wheel drive Model Ys, for the Model 3s that are going to be rear-wheel drive, that have those structural type battery packs, and for the CyberTruck, which is going to be running on 4680s.
Oh, yeah. Good news all around.
That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. They also installed 1.5 million power walls. They even started paying Texas residents for their power this past quarter.
They started to pay Texas residents for their power.
Correct. They were able to give payouts to them, I believe, for excess power.
That's pretty cool.
I forget the name of it. They have a system in place where it's the power walls act as a defunct grid.
Yeah.
Right. Or a pseudo grid.
Yeah, and in Texas, if you remember from just a couple of years ago, the grid was under stress, and the Texas legislature put open market legislation into place. So it is very much a supply and demand style market. You don't get just fixed cost pricing as you do in so many other areas of the country. So people, when there was this really, really high stress to the Texas grid, power companies were buying on the spot market. They were passing their costs along to consumers. And these poor people, they had a 1,500 square foot house. It's hot outside. They turn on the air conditioning, and they get a $40,000 bill the next month. The opposite sounds like it's also holding true, though. Now that we're getting a lot more stability to the grid, especially with power walls, the utility companies have to buy power from their own people. So people are starting to get paid back for that.
Hopefully we see a stabilization in this market, because we've had several discussions on how the power companies, even with solar, will buy energy at wholesale from consumers and then turn around and sell it full price. right? Hopefully, with Tesla coming in with the Powerwalls, it's enough to shake things up a little bit to where that's not the case.
I hope so. I hope so.
This seems kind of a shame.
Yes. Hey, we've got a few questions coming up.
Yeah.
On Instagram, Balupun Kavanam says, hi from India. Good evening. Working as an electronics senior technician for the last 10 years. Has so much experience in battery-operated machines. Well, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate him being online.
Absolutely. And from our friend with the previous comment about wanting to open up an EV repair shop, he says, is it possible that the brushless DC motor works the same as a generator as well as a motor at the same time?
I have very limited knowledge myself on that, so I'm gonna encourage people to chime in on the comments for this. But I think the short answer is yes, you can do something kind of like that.
Okay.
Where a brushless DC motor can be used, the excess power that the DC motor generates can be used to generate electricity, while it's also actually part of that generation is being used for power as well.
And then we have George saying, if Mr. Pete wasn't away, I was going to make bets if Mr. Pete or his laptop would go into sleep mode first. LOL. That was also if you guys did a live earnings call show. Yeah. I think that's honestly one of the reasons that we didn't do a live earnings call show, because it's another great use for the sunglasses. It is. We might have to have Pete do sunglass checks throughout the next earnings call, or if we do another investor day, we'll have to go and say, Pete, lift up your sunglasses, and he'll have to turn and show us that he's awake.
Yes. No, I have a distinct feeling that any more investor days or earnings calls are going to be like we're doing today. We report it after the fact.
Yeah.
That way we can be concentrating either on the call or on other work while the call's playing, or whatever we want, and we don't fall asleep, because it was hard to stay awake that day.
Yeah, there's a lot of dry stuff going on there, but I agree. I think that doing it this way is more fun too.
I think dry is an understatement.
Arizona heat. Dry.
There we go. Instagram, Balopun Kavanam. What is the technology that you think that EV will be survived? The lithium-ion battery or the supercapacitor? So I think he's asking us which technology, in our opinion, we think is going to survive in the future.
I think the battery is it. My understanding is, in order to power a Tesla, we would need a supercapacitor. I mean, the size of this room, right? We would need a capacitor at a.
It would have to be a massive, massive capacitor.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be in the future. I can definitely see, for the cars that want to have the absolute best performance, a supercapacitor is the way to go. Because you cannot extract power more quickly than you can with a supercapacitor. It can put out wattage instantaneously. At Gruber Power Services, they build critical power systems, of course. And one of the reasons that there are capacitor banks on those UPS systems, and at times very large capacitor banks, is because the things that are being powered cannot have more than a few milliseconds of power loss before they get damaged. And so the capacitors, which are powered up, provide that jolt of power for that first anywhere from a couple of milliseconds up to as much as a second.
Interesting.
And then the batteries take over. I could eventually see the same type of thing occurring in the cars. Kind of depends on where the engineering and technology takes us.
So this instant torque would become even more instant.
Oh yeah. Instead of instant, it would be instantaneous. And the supercapacitor could also do things like help store the solar that would be coming into the car while you're driving, and be able to, in a more regulated manner, be able to charge the battery instead of having the peaks and spikes that you would have whenever you see a cloud pass in front of the sun.
That's super cool.
So yeah, there are definitely no pun intended, right? Supercapacitor, super cool.
But no, that was not intended. I thought about bringing a pun or two to this show, but
it's just natural for Richard at this point.
Yeah, it is. What did What is Tesla's new lawnmower called?
I have not heard that.
The Elon.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry. All right.
Great.
I think our ratings just dropped.
On Instagram, Boobo Electrolab says hi. And then George on Watch Rich Rebuilds says, would Gruber Motors get mad if I designed and sold a 12-volt battery relocation kit for the 12-volt battery to mount off of strut supports and not to the trunk like your Roadster kit? George, I think we'd be very interested to find out more about your design. No, I don't think Gruber Motors would get mad. They'd probably want to collaborate with you, in fact.
I agree. Everything that I've seen from Pete when it comes to what others would perceive as competition, Pete sees as collaboration.
Yeah,
opportunities for cooperation.
And by all means, George did clarify, actually, it's about the early Model S's and not the Roadster itself. But Pete and Gruber Motors and Gruber overall, we take an expansive or a kind of a growth mindset when it comes to competition.
Mm-hmm.
The pie is big enough for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Your competitors become your customers, become your collaborators. Everybody wins.
Agreed.
So
that mentality was one of the biggest culture shocks I witnessed when I first started working here. Was Pete? He sees everybody as every person in every company as a human. With opportunities for cooperation, and doesn't focus on potential downside on his part.
No, it's one of the reasons that Gruber Motors has been successful, and one of the things that I love about the company. Instagram, Zahi D VTR waves. Good morning, and DJ VIP 10 says hi as well.
Hello, DJ VIP. He's reached out to us several times, so it's nice to hear from you again.
Yes. And we're getting a reaction to your joke as well.
Yeah.
Boo. Boo. That comes from John Shurik.
Yep. And that's the gauge of a good pun, right? If everybody is saying boo, or good dad joke.
My wife reacts negatively to most of my dad jokes. And every once in a while, I have to remind her, a good dad joke is like art. It's not whether or not you like it. It's whether or not you get a reaction.
That's right. That's right.
If you get a reaction, it's good.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like we're all caught up. Should we continue jumping? I've got just one more number for this.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's keep going.
Tesla in earnings call. They have 5 to 6 Optimus bots that they've produced. With more on the way. So, I mean, that, along with the numbers we had discussed earlier, that wraps up the numbers. Now, Q3, they're anticipating those production numbers to go down. Reason being is they're having planned downtime in preparation for the CyberTruck.
Okay.
From what it sounded like on the phone call, and I might have to go reread the transcript, but there's more than one factory that's got planned downtime for this to prepare for the production. And they may have used the CyberTruck to cover for the Highland project, for Model 2 project as well.
Okay.
Who knows? I'm speculating at this point. But they are anticipating those numbers dropping in the third quarter. And that's not the only reason the third quarter is going to be important.
No, there's going to be a number of things that go on. It sounds like they're working to set expectations right now.
Mm-hmm.
Why else is the third quarter going to be so important to them, though?
Because there is a window of opportunity for individuals who've purchased full self-driving. You want to go into that?
Yeah, I certainly will. You see, full self-driving, as just about any Tesla owner knows, and as virtually all Tesla owners who have paid money to buy it know, doesn't exist yet. Not in its full form in the way that it was advertised. People, when full self-driving first came out in 2017, I believe it was, possibly 2016, full self-driving was about a $2,000 add-on. The price on full self-driving has gone up over the years, and it currently sits at about $15,000 to add full self-driving to your car. Now, if you bought a car 7 years ago, and you bought the promise of this really, really revolutionary feature, and your car is old now and it has a lot of miles on it and you still don't have it, you think it's a waste of money.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest complaints that Tesla owners have had over the last few years, especially. Why did I waste all my money for full self-driving? So Elon did announce during the call that he is granting what he calls amnesty to people. I call it a smart business decision. If they place an order for a new Tesla before October 1st, so in the third quarter, then they will have the ability at no charge to transfer their full self-driving license onto that new vehicle.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool.
Absolutely. There's not much more you could do. I mean, he's talked about how there have been unexpected delays, which full self-driving, this is the first technology of its kind, right?
Yeah.
You have autopilot, but in airplanes, right? But that you don't have corners to take and trees to watch out for and stop signs and whatnot. That's arguably more simple.
Yeah.
This is the first technology of its kind, and there have been delays, and he's talked about it, and it's completely understandable. This is really all that he could do to smooth things over, I think.
I think so. I'm a little disappointed that he called it amnesty, because that's his way of not apologizing, I think, is the way I would say it. And there's no question. It's a grab for orders, because if they can grab a bunch of orders from people who have full self-driving by having that limit on it, then that grab for orders is something that at the next earnings call, Tesla can say, well, yeah, we only produced 400,000 vehicles and delivered this quarter, but our order quantity is up. We're on track to produce over 500,000 next quarter and still meet our annual goal.
Mm-hmm.
John Surik has another comment for us. He says, I just placed an order for a Lightning yesterday due to the price drop.
Nice.
That's something we haven't really talked about much. Mm-hmm. But the Ford Lightning is dropping in price. And, Aaron, you bought your Ford F-250 recently. What do you think about the Ford Lightning price drop?
Yeah. Nice timing.
A little closer, Aaron, for me.
No problem. Yeah, I got pretty frustrated because my 6.0 has 300,000 miles on it. So the wife said, hey, we need something a little bit nicer if we're planning on having kids in the next year or two. Mm-hmm. So we started looking at the Ford Lightnings, since I already got technically a tow vehicle in the 6.0. And I was having a hard time finding dealerships that had the lower end trim packages, like your XLTs and your Pros. And so everything that I was pricing in an XLT, if I went to order it, was going to be out of the tax credit, which didn't make any sense for me to purchase if I'm going to purchase an EV. But I was looking at Farzad's tweet the other day, and he did list a bunch of the new prices for the Ford. It looks like the Pro model is going to be around 50,000, so for 49,900. XLT standard is 54,900. XLT extended, which is going to be your 320 mile battery, is at 69,900, and in your Lariat, 69,000 to 77,000, and in your Platinum is 91,000. And all I could find on the dealership floors, Platinums and extended Lariats. I could not find anything lower than that. It doesn't feel like, at least in Arizona, that a lot of the Ford dealerships want to deal with the EV Lightnings unless they're the higher end ones.
Yeah, I can kind of understand that. The Ford dealerships and the corporate have been a little bit at war with one another, because corporate's asking for an investment that the dealerships pay as much as $1 million to do upgrades to their facilities, just in order to get licensed to sell these Lightnings. And so I could see that they would want to try to get more of the higher end. My all-time favorite pickup truck as of right now, though, is that Ford Lightning Platinum Edition. If I could get one, if I had the money to just go and drop, that's the one I'd be going for right now.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet, but at 90,000, ooh boy.
Yeah.
Do you think this is a move by Ford to kind of say, hey, dealerships, why don't you start looking at the Lightning a little more seriously? Or is this the dealership saying, "Hey, you need to drop the prices if you want us to consider." Who do you think this is more for, the dealership or for Ford?
You know, in my opinion, I think it's more for Ford, and I honestly think it's a simple supply and demand thing. They have ramped up and started really cranking out these Fords, and I don't think that demand is keeping up with their supply right now.
I agree.
What do you think, Richard?
I'm in the same boat. I think that this is for Ford.
Yeah, you know, let's continue on here on TikTok. I have the power. Says, do you have thoughts on the 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe? And he also comments the Optimus bot rollout.
2024 Hyundai Santa Fe. I can't say.
That's on Twitter. I'll see if I can find a picture. It's a complete redesign of what the Santa Fe looks like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, very very boxy looking design.
Interesting.
Once you get that picture up, Jesse, let us know, and we'll talk about that one a little bit further.
We'll do a live reaction, so we won't look it up beforehand. We'll see it on the TV screen and get to.
Yeah, I'll pull up Farzad. I think he
Exactly.
put it on his Twitter. I'll pull it up here a sec.
Okay. TikTok, false hopes, says the new Hyundai party in the front, disaster in the back, giving the Aztec a run for its money. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this one
me
looks
too.
like.
Magi, we'll just say Magi says, well.
Thank you.
Yeah, interesting comment there, Magic.
Saido OU1, hi. What's the subject? Well, the subject here is all things electric vehicle and green energy.
Absolutely. Emphasis on electric vehicle. We mainly focus on that market, but we do dabble in fusion when Jesse's feeling up to it.
By all means, and a lot of focus on Tesla, of course, because at Gruber Motors, we are a Tesla repair facility. We're one of the very few truly independent Tesla repair facilities in the world.
Absolutely. And speaking of Tesla, George says, I'd love if Elon built an FSD electric golf cart in the near future. And if it plugged into a supercharger, would be even more good. All right. Even more gooder.
I love the idea, but the way that I golf, I could see, some sort of radio frequency golf ball. I'd be driving through ponds. I'd be driving through houses. It would not be. It would
All right,
not
guys,
be
I
pretty.
have that picture for you.
All right. Blind react.
So, and I think we should read Farzad's caption off to the right here.
Okay.
I pull this up. No. Can you guys see that?
So the
Farzad
car reminds me
says-
of the show Game of Thrones. The front is, and I can't read that.
The front
Season
is
one.
season 1, yeah.
Season 1, and progresses to the back where
It ends
it
in the
ends
worst way.
in the
it
worst
could.
way it could. Okay, so that front,
That's a bold statement from Farzad because they butchered Game of Thrones there at the end. So
Yeah. so I like what I see from the front there.
Mhm.
That's a pretty cool look. Oh
Why?
my gosh.
Why?
That's just a
That's
basic
all I had to say is why.
flat back, like it backed into a wall. Kind of like the Aztec.
Kind of like the Aztec. You're right.
It reminds me of somebody who is larger, in stature, who can't seem to keep their pants above their butt crack.
Yeah. Yeah,
For
that's
some reason that's what that reminds me of.
I'm thinking that they had this nicely engineered tail end on this car, and the higher ups said, your car's too long. It has to be a foot shorter. We're not going to go to market like this. It has to be a foot shorter. And so in frustration, the engineers took the clay model and took a chainsaw to it.
Oh man.
Shoot, am I the only one that kind of likes this? Well, I'm thinking it from a garage standpoint, because if you want to get this SUV, it's hard to get big SUVs and trucks inside a garage, and I feel like that cutting off that back end very flat like that will be easier to get into a garage.
That's
Oh,
fair.
That's a fair point. That's a good point. The one thing I do like about the SUV overall a lot, it reminds me a little bit of that Chevy Tahoe GMC Yukon look.
Yeah.
My favorite vehicle that I've ever driven long term is a GMC Yukon. Got a 2004. It's still in the family. I don't own it myself anymore, but it's still in the family 20 years later. And I hope we never sell it. It was that nice of a vehicle.
You know, I'm getting strong Land Rover vibes
Sure.
from the shape of. Yeah, I get Land Rover vibes.
Like the old Land Rover Discovery.
Yeah.
That was basically a box on wheels.
And, Aaron, there's a comment for you right here. It says EV Ben. On the right of that photo, it says, sometimes I feel like I'm the only one who actually enjoyed the final season. And Farzad says, you need to see a doctor.
I'm trying to remember the final season. I don't think I loved it or hated. I just didn't want it to end.
Yeah. You don't want to remember the final season.
So George, he also has a comment for you, Aaron. He says you need a 99 to 03, a 7.3 liter. That year truck will never die.
Yeah, unfortunately, those guys are very proud of those. So when they go to sell them, they get like, I mean, I saw one for, I think it was 18,000, you know, with 200,000+ miles on them. I mean, they're very proud of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. John Surik of the Lightning, he said, he was agreeing with you, Aaron. He said he had to order an XLT, and that Colorado only had the higher level trims. So, and then George as well says for Aaron again, even better for the family is a Ford Excursion 7.3, but the Ford Excursion is a little pricey. The Ford Excursion is a beautiful SUV. If I wasn't wanting to drive a Chevy Tahoe, GMC Yukon, Ford Excursion is right on that tier for me.
I had an Explorer for a 2002 Explorer for a good time. Loved that truck.
Yeah, they're great. And then John follows up and said 100K was a sticker for the Platinum.
That's sad.
Real quick, guys. George is saying, I got to go. Thanks for taking my call earlier. I did order the battery. Forgot to ask you for a big fan discount. But thanks for having have a great day. So thanks.
Awesome.
George.
Glad for that, George. Thanks for that. He Gruber Motors sells Model S batteries. And we use one of the leading battery manufacturers in the U.S. to make this battery. They engineer it, and we distribute it for them. In fact, I believe they are one of the manufacturers that makes batteries for Tesla as well. So our battery is basically equivalent to theirs. Our pricing, I think, is in line with what Tesla has, and we get a lot of people that order their Model S batteries from us.
Ours are just cooler, is the thing.
Oh, totally. And so...
We have Flying Solo saying the Santa Fe looks similar to the Land Rover LR4 knockoff. Yeah.
Yep. And I have the power on TikTok says I agree. I see Land Rover and I see Ford flags.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
good point. Good point.
Good point. Well, let's get back to this earnings call a little bit because there was some Cybertruck news in the earnings call.
There was. Let me go ahead and get to that real quick. Do we want to go through the rest of it or just jump to that Cybertruck?
Let's jump there, then we can go back to some of this other stuff.
All right. So Cybertruck. Now, you're excited about something with this Cybertruck. We were talking about Santa Fe maybe fitting in a garage.
Oh, yeah. Cybertruck. Tesla announced that their Cybertruck is the first pickup truck style vehicle ever made that's going to be 19 feet or less long, that's going to have at least a 6-foot bed, and has what I would call a crew cab style, 4 full-size doors. Back in the day, I owned a Chevy Silverado, a 2000, and it had 4 doors. It was not a crew cab though, and it was also almost 22 feet long, even though it only had a 6-foot bed. So I could not put it in the garage. The Cybertruck will fit in a standard size garage if it's just right at 19 feet.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Yeah, they
Richard, real quick, you saw one at the Peter Center, right? Didn't you say it was the size of like a Toyota, something like
a
that?
Tacoma.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, lengthwise. I mean, it. When you see pictures, for some reason, to me, it just seems like they're larger than like maybe a lifted Ram truck. That type of size, Hummer EV type of size. But they're not. It struck me as more of like maybe a slightly lifted Toyota Tacoma. Not in length, definitely garage worthy.
That means the Cybertruck is going to be very similar in size to a Model Y when all is said and done.
I wonder if they'll use the same structural battery packs.
Well, I wonder if they will as well. They are going to be using the same 4680 battery. At some point, somebody's going to come up with a modular battery pack besides Canoo.
Besides Canoo.
So let me pull that up for you guys, because Corey Steuben of Monroe Live actually put out some screenshots yesterday, and he was talking about how, in his view, as like a teardown person, he can see now that it looks like they are going to, based on the screenshots, they are going to be using structural packs.
Wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that. And while Jesse's pulling that up, the first Cybertruck is a release. Looks like even though it's VIN 001, it is still considered a release candidate. Tesla says that and I'm going to quote on this one, we are now testing Cybertruck vehicles around the world for final certification and validation. That we are now testing comment tells me that every Cybertruck that's coming off the line right now is going to be considered a release candidate. Just that Tesla believes that they are far enough along that they can put real VIN numbers on it. Kind of like the Founder Series Roadsters were.
Okay. But these wouldn't be EPs or VPs, would they?
No, I do not believe they'd be validation prototypes. They're beyond that. Beyond that scent.
Cool.
Okay, so I can pull that up for you right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to read it for you guys?
Yeah, in this case, please do.
So for this one, again, we'll have to look at the image. I'm not sure, but it says, the image from Tesla's IR presentation finally shows a picture with no floor, essentially confirming structural battery pack in this Cybertruck. Also of note, stamped weld lower rear crosscar structure at the base of the rear seats.
They haven't even gotten the truck and they're already tearing it apart.
Yeah, they're already tearing it down.
I appreciate Corey's comments there, because he's going to have a lot more engineering and automotive background than I do. This is one of the 4 pictures that they published with the Investor Day, and I thought, wow, that's a pretty cool looking aluminum unibody, but that's about as far as I got with it.
Yeah.
And there are a couple other things for the Cybertruck that I had gleaned from the information I read. Full-scale production still slated for this year, still slated at Giga Texas. In fact, the quote that they have was that the Cybertruck remains on track to begin initial production later this year at Gigafactory Texas. And then there will be a couple of other things that I've learned in addition to the Cybertruck. But why don't we go through some of what you heard on the Cybertruck?
Yeah, there was just a few things that popped out to me. So the first was a quote from Elon. He said the demand is so far off the hook that we can't see the hook.
Great quote, man.
Yeah, that's just 1.7 to 1.9 million pre-orders. I mean, yeah, that's off the hook. That's insane. Now, he also said that the production will go as fast as the unluckiest part, meaning the part that's the most difficult. And this was in response to a question.
Okay.
When are we going to see this coming out? When are we going to see these, on the road? And he's again said it'll go as fast as the unluckiest part, meaning that the most difficult part to produce will determine when this truck hits the road. And I think that's a very honest answer and straightforward.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Because you can have everything in this pen but the ball on the end, and you can't sell the pen, right? If that's the most difficult thing to produce, you have to wait till it's done, right? And so that makes sense to me. He also said that this truck is, quote, unlike any other vehicle on the road, period, and worth the excitement.
Yeah, I've heard quotes along that lines as well. They said something to the effect of, this truck is so unique. It's almost like he compared it almost like a space program. It's so unique. It's so much has never been done before that you're going to see a lot of technology advances in cars overall come about as a result of what has gone on with this truck and the struggles that they've had to figure out how to design this in the way that they want.
No, I mean, yeah, that's if you can just look at the truck and see that it's completely different than anything else that's on the road. Take into account the fact that the cold rolled steel is going to stop up to a 9mm round.
Yeah.
Right. Take into account, I don't know if they made progress on that glass, Franz, but if they did, that's going to be resistant to impacts.
Yeah.
You know, I would willing to bet they have that. They have an upgraded, filtering system like the bioweapon filtering system in the Model S, full self-driving, autopilot. All these things just scream that this truck is completely different than anything else that's on the road.
Well, by all means, and you think about with a windshield as large as what the CyberTruck has, having glass that is as strong as they're claiming, I don't think about it for bullets. I think about it for rock chips.
That's right.
Model S is notoriously bad about rock chips causing cracks in the windshield. And if they have a windshield that can be more resistant to those rock chips, man, I'd be all in for that.
100%. We've got a lot more semis out here throwing up hot rocks.
Oh yeah. And a lot more heat out here that heat stresses windshields. Glass is not designed to expand and contract. And yesterday I did this little post ditty to Facebook, but it's totally true. Somebody from our accounting team took and put Pillsbury sugar cookies on tinfoil on the dash of their car at lunch. And then at our afternoon break, 3 hours later, went out to the car, grabbed the cooked cookies, brought them in, and shared them with people.
Wow.
I had one. It was great.
That's funny.
And it was completely and perfectly cooked.
Very coincidental, Richard.
Yeah, we did the same thing.
You did?
Oh, yeah. With Ellie in Space, we did a little skit where, we were trying to figure out how to welcome her to Arizona in an Arizonan way. And cooking cookies on a dashboard was what we went to do. But I think I missed a step, the tinfoil. I didn't use tinfoil.
Yeah, if you use the tinfoil, it does reflect the heat a little bit better.
All right, Aaron, next time she's coming in, we're going to have an upgraded process for this, and we can make sure those cookies cook how they're supposed to.
John has, getting back to the Cybertruck, John has a great question here. Release candidate, what does that mean? I can answer that a little bit. Release candidate usually is a software term and not an automotive term. And having a technical background, your very first version of your software, you're in development and you're ready to go get people to test your software. You know it's buggy, you know it's not done. Well, that's your alpha release. Once you have pretty well figured out what it is that you want your software to do, you think internal testing with your development team is pretty well done. The software is behaving in the way that it's supposed to when given the inputs that it's supposed to receive. You send it out into the world for what's called a beta release, because people out in the world are going to use your software in ways that you could have never dreamed of. They're going to do things that intentionally or not to try to break the software, and then you get through that. After your beta release is done, and you think you're really close to having everything settled down, you start putting out what are called release candidates. Release candidate 1, release candidate 2. And basically you're telling the world, I think this is done and ready to go. However, there might be what I like to call generational errors or generational issues that come up. A generational issue means I have, to use an auto analogy, I have a loose bolt. So I know that my bolt is loose. I know that's a problem. So I tighten the bolt. Now tightening the bolt puts stress on the component that was bolted. So now that component cracks. That's a generational problem.
Okay.
The parent generation was the loose bolt. The child generation was the cracked or the bent thing that the bolt was holding together. Now you fix that, and you might have another problem after that comes up as a result. When you're into your release candidates, you've pretty much fixed all of those early problems and some of those second generation problems that come in, and you're saying, I really think this is ready for go time. So that's what a release candidate is, but it's not one that's approved to. It's not a full rollout production.
Yeah, there'll be release candidate 1, 2, 3, 3.5. They do that with the software that we use, Oxygen, for our websites.
Yep, exactly. So Flying Solo on YouTube says, what are your thoughts on some of the current issues with EV vehicles, such as battery issues, climate control, in-car electronics, some of these that have not been solved? A lot of car makers are making EVs.
Well, I mean, my personal thoughts on that are this is going to go the route with the same route as all technology takes, right? Something comes up kind of like ready for release, or the candidate for release technology or metaphor, right? Comes out, people try it, problems are learned, solutions are made, more problems present, solutions are made, and things progress in an upward trend, in an upward direction. That's how this is going to work too. The problems we're facing, hopefully we're not going to be facing in 5 to 10 years. We'll have different problems, different desires for these vehicles, but the problems we have right now won't exist.
I think you're right too, that we have to remind ourselves the automotive industry is roughly 170 years old. Okay. Mercedes-Benz, and I don't remember Mercedes and Benz's first names. You have Daimler that made a car. You have Mercedes-Benz that made a car. You have Ford that made its first cars in the late 1800s. So overall, the automotive industry is, like I say, about 170 years old. Overall, the electric vehicle industry in modern times, and I'm not going to talk about the electric vehicles from 1910.
Back then,
the electric vehicle industry in modern times is 15 years old.
Yeah.
The electric vehicle industry in modern times, the precursor to it would have been the General Motors EV1. They scrapped the EV1. It looked a little bit like the picture behind us, honestly.
That's true.
But General Motors decided to scrap the EV1, saying, A, battery technology was not where it needed to be successful, and B, they didn't think that there was going to be a demand for this car. AC propulsion, thought differently. Elon Musk, Mark Tarpenning, etc. We've told the story before. The Tesla Roadster that came out in 2008 was really the beginning of modern EVs as we know it. So electric vehicles have had 15 years where the automotive industry has had 170. There are still a lot of things to get ironed out. Battery issues on EVs, yes, they do still exist. Batteries are so much more reliable and so much more stable than they were even 15 years ago. And yet we know at Gruber Motors that those battery packs that are 15 years old are still going strong. That's a big part of our business at Gruber Motors is to take the battery packs that have started to fail due to resistive cells or things like that, correct them, get them repaired and put back into service. We're not seeing with one exception, that's the 2016 packs that seem to have had some other inherent flaws in them. We're seeing 15-year-old battery packs that are still going strong. We don't know what end of life truly looks like for those. And the next oldest car is the Nissan Leaf, which is a 2010 about. You've got hybrids with very small battery packs, such as the Toyota Prius. But for full battery electric vehicles, that's the Genesis. So yes, we've got battery issues sometimes. The technology is moving forward. You've got climate control issues sometimes. That technology is moving forward rapidly. R22 has been replaced by R134. R134 is being replaced by something else in the next couple of years. R134, people thought it was going to be much worse than the old stuff. It ended up being much better, not only for the environment, but much more effective. And we haven't even gone into the fact that we think that we're going to have things like a mix of supercapacitors, batteries, and solar in our cars in the future, or inductive charging, or all these other things. So
this is just the start. I mean, it literally is just the start.
Yeah. So I think this is an automotive revolution going on, not unlike the computer revolution that occurred, really picking up steam in the 1970s and into the 1980s. We don't know what the future looks like. I think there will be problems and bumps along the way. I think the car makers are also going to solve these issues pretty quickly, sometimes through competitive processes and sometimes through collaborative processes. There will be a lot of companies in 10 years that exist today that won't at that point in time.
Absolutely. And I know if the car behind us is any indication, I think we might still see some more pop up.
Oh, I'm sure we will.
That will become successful.
Canoo.
Canoo. Well, they've already popped up. They're going to be successful. We don't even need to worry about them.
Canoo is Canoo is one of those cute cars that you know they get stuff right. They're like a startup EV. They're struggling to get everything through production. But we said just recently they delivered. NASA said we need some transport vehicles for the Artemis cruise. We're going to go electric. Canoo, you're the ones we're going to go with. And Canoo delivered those vehicles on time.
Yep.
So that's it. I think there's still a potential for a future with them.
I agree. And we've got a news article on them. Maybe we'll get to it later.
Hopefully we'll get to it.
Yeah.
Flying Solo says, what's the projected growth or current data for EV charging infrastructure and physical charging stations? I realized a lot of current charging stations in Arizona have a lot of issues and are down a lot. If you don't mind, I'll start and then you can fill in as well.
Yeah. They didn't comment too much on the chargers on the call, so I don't have anything for that on my end.
Okay. Well, they did in the slide deck and in the written report for the investor day or for the earnings call talk about the growth in the charging infrastructure. First, I want to talk about the Tesla or North American Charging Standard.
That's right.
First, more and more vehicles and networks are adopting the North American Charging Standard as their as either an additional standard or as the way that they're going to make their vehicles. The latest one, incidentally, is I believe it's Nissan. They have, and in fact, Jesse, if you want to pull up that picture of the Nissan Ariya in the images folder, Nissan has made a new electric vehicle after like 12 years. They're going to discontinue the Leaf, and the Ariya SUV style car has taken off. Actually, it's a pretty slick looking car. I saw one driving down the road just recently. I'm like, oh, man, that's pretty nice. What is that? Kind of drive up and around it. I'm like, that's an electric vehicle. I didn't know Nissan was putting out one of those. The Ariya is already outselling the Leaf here in 2023.
So it was the Ariya or Ariya?
I'm sorry, Ariya.
Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't miss out on another.
You are right, because that's why I put the picture with the name on it.
There you go.
So go ahead. It's all right. I think Aaron has more info too when you're done.
Yeah. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I do. So Nissan, the first Japanese automaker to jump on the NACS movement here. It looks like it's going to be like what everybody else is going down the same road. So older models like the Ariya. Actually, my sister-in-law has an Ariya, so she's super excited about this.
Okay.
They're going to have adapters by 2024. And then in 2025, all models will have the port. One thing that was kind of interesting in all this, though, is it sounds like in 2030, Nissan is aiming to have 40% BEVs in the USA. So that's a pretty good goal right there.
That's very cool, in line with what a lot of the other manufacturers are doing. I also heard that Nissan's going to be moving a lot of their EV production from Japan over into the United States for their NACS adapters. But to further answer the question about the charging infrastructure, not only do we have the NACS adapters becoming more prevalent, I mention that because the NACS standard and the Tesla superchargers are far and away the most consistent and reliable charging network that's out there. They're 98% plus reliability, where most of the charging networks sit anywhere from 60 to no more than about 80 to 85% reliability.
And they're not going to fry your brand new Ford F-150 Lightning Electrify America.
No, they're not going to. They're not going to fry anything either. Tesla announced a 33% increase year over year, moving from roughly 33 plugins to about 33,000 plugins to about 50,000 plugins, and moving up to almost 6,000 locations that have charging stations. So that, coupled with the continued growth of places like Electrify America, ChargePoint, Blink, there are others as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember right off the top of my head. Bodes well for a network that has, by all measures, even I would say even your day-to-day driving measure as an EV driver, it's been kind of sparse.
Mm-hmm.
You go out, and I'm a little nervous about taking a trip in my Volvo, simply because I don't know that I want to have to rely on a CCS charger. As good as they are most of the time, there's a 25% chance that my CCS charger doesn't have working ports.
Mm-hmm.
Is a little more than I'm comfortable with. I would rather have the 99% availability of a Tesla supercharger.
I agree. And just to make the comparison to the ICE world, if 25% of the gas pumps didn't work, you know how irritating that would be?
Oh, yeah.
That would be above and beyond. But Tesla is leading the way in reliability in that. So I'd side with Tesla as well.
You don't want to go down to the Pilot over in Quartzsite. That's 15 miles this side of town, and there's nothing around besides the Pilot, only to find out that none of their pumps are working. Oh yeah, we ran out of gas yesterday. We'll get some in a few days.
Oh my gosh,
we've got technicians coming in 3 days.
Yeah, oh my goodness, and it's things like that that are hindrance to EV adoption at that point, because just like you and I can make a joke about it with EV, there are some people that are going to take that completely seriously.
Yeah, the electric vehicles overall. And I've seen this in the press as well. They're reaching a saturation point before they can take their next leap. The saturation is that most of the early adopters who wanted to get an electric vehicle because of either the cool factor or wanting to be green or whatever reason have now gotten an electric vehicle. The market that is still left to be tapped, and has very few people in it, are the people who say, I don't care what car I get, as long as I get reliable transportation at a decent price that isn't too expensive to drive around, and I don't have to think about these things. I just want it to work.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like at least 40% of people that I know do not care.
Yeah.
Right. What they're driving, what they look like while they drive it. They just want to be able to get from point A to point B and live life without worry.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, you guys know the vast majority of those people too that are doing that range anxiety stuff are like the rest of us. 90% of us don't travel to Quartzsite, don't go to and from California every day or every week, right? It's maybe a rare occurrence, happens a few times a year, possibly, where we have to really worry about that. So I would say don't let that really affect you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the day is coming very soon, maybe months, not even years, at which we're going to reach that tipping point. Eventually, somebody will come out with a car that fits the bill in range, as well as price, as well as reliability. Maybe it's the Model 2. Maybe it's an update on the Model 3. Maybe it's somebody else. Maybe it's Canoo. We don't know, but I'm not sure that they were out there yet. I think the prices are still a little high for your typical Joe, but I think it's coming, and I don't think it's going to be long.
I don't think so either. Looking forward to it. Speaking of Canoo, John Shrek says Canoo seems to be in stealth mode.
He certainly does. Let's slide over there real quick, because we have a little bit of an update on Canoo.
Yeah.
They are kind of in stealth mode. And Jesse, there's a Canoo picture on the line. It's called Canoo lineup. If you could put that one up as well. Canoo is They're out there. They're new. They're growing, though.
Mm-hmm.
They just signed this week an expanded partnership agreement with the United States Department of Defense. So, Lucid has the Saudis, Canoo has the U.S. government.
I'm back in Canoo at this point.
Yeah. Canoo has a couple of unique features that the Department of Defense really likes. One of them you can see in this picture. It's a modular battery system.
Mm-hmm.
So all 5 of those vehicles, even the one that in the background, it looks to me like a Pez dispenser, all those vehicles run on basically the same tires, battery, and subframe. So they just put the top on top of it. And that modular battery system that can be easily applied to different body styles and different needs is one of the things that helped Canoo get this expanded contract.
Yeah.
The Department of Defense specifically liked that, and it was a key selling point.
You can put anything you want on top of that thing.
Just about.
Exactly.
Just about. In fact, Canoo's manufacturing plant is also another selling point that they had. It's in the Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in the process of being built. It's close to being completed. And once it's totally completed, about 200 new jobs, mostly going to people in the Cherokee Nation for manufacturing the Canoo vehicles are going to be in place.
Good.
Moreover, the electricity for the Canoos to do the manufacturing of the battery packs and of the vehicles is mostly zero emission. It's either wind or solar energy that they're using to do most of their manufacturing process.
They're really going all in.
They're really totally going all in. And these are all things that the Department of Defense really bought into as well. So they've got that partnership with Canoo, and they're continuing to fund them. Considering the billions of dollars that it took to build one F-35 jet, I could see that the U.S. government has deep enough pockets to keep Canoo in business for a while.
I think so too. John said, put an order in and $100 deposit for a Canoo. I don't know if he's saying that we should put in or he put an order in.
I'm not sure, but I don't think he's the only one around here that's done that.
Nope. I put in an order for not this guy, not the closest one to me, but the pickup truck right over there.
Yes. I can't wait to see you drive up with that pickup truck. I'm sure it's going to happen someday.
I feel like at this point, I just wonder, I hope Sierra is old enough to sit in the front. Kind of. I want it soon, but there's also no spot for a car seat in the back, so I won't be able to drive it with her until she's old enough. But
oh yeah,
John said he put an order in.
That's
Exciting.
right.
Was it are you doing the one right here or the pickup truck over that way?
Yeah, let us know. Let us know. John also says that he totally agrees with the charge network availability. He says if Ford wasn't going to the Tesla network, I would not have ordered a Ford Lightning. You're not alone. I am sure that there are a lot of people that are out there looking at these Ford Lightnings, looking at the Chevrolets, I have a Volvo, I look at that and I'm like, can't wait to have a chance to get that adapter so that I can put my Volvo on the supercharger network.
Yeah.
That is going to be a game changer for us.
And there's at least one sale to Ford from this exact deal. So it's working out in both Tesla and Ford's favor and all the other manufacturers that are on board with it.
Yeah. John says it's a good kind of weird. It's another one of those cute cars.
I love it. Yeah. At first, when I first saw it, I was like, dude, I do not like the way that this truck looks. I don't like it at all. And I sat there and I looked at it for a little bit. I was like, it's not that bad. And then I saw it with the camper shell. I was like, yeah, I'm going to get one.
Yeah.
He said that he went with the van and lifestyle vehicle. I might have to switch to that one. I reached out to them and they said I can switch my reservation from the pickup to the van type of deal for baby girl.
Well, see, with your daughter, you might need to do that.
I might. We'll see.
Yes. This last time we were talking on Tuesday, we had somebody ask about Tesla Semi updates. So, that question was prescient because it was just the very next day I saw that Twitter user Heinrich Zane put some stuff out, and what he put out made the news.
Let's see it.
So Heinrich Zane likes to stalk Tesla semis. I know that sounds kind of weird. The gentleman drives a Model S Plaid, and he recently posted a couple of videos on Twitter of Tesla semis. He says they are fully loaded. He says, I know, don't ask me how, but I do know. And they're going uphill through Donner Pass in California. This video that we're about to watch is a Tesla semi going up a road that is an average 7% grade with a maximum 16% grade. So it is a steep uphill climb. Why don't you see if you can show us that video or a snippet of it?
That's practically rock crawling for a semi.
Yeah. So here you've got that semi. It is going up, and again, this is legitimately uphill. That semi is going as fast as the car next to it.
That semi was towing a Bradley.
Yeah, the other semi was. That is simply stunning to me. What you see here is a great demonstration of Elon's claim that the Tesla Semi will outperform its diesel-powered counterparts by a notable margin, and I quote. Simply amazing to see. Now, during a conference in Austin last month, Elon did admit that Tesla's behind schedule in their full production of the Semi. He said that meaningful production numbers will not occur until late 2024. That is a change from Tesla's earlier guidance that they were hoping to be able to put out 50,000 semis a year by 2024. So it's the company's likely gonna miss its goal in this area. However, counterpoint to this, once Tesla is producing 50,000 units a year, they will become one of the largest large truck manufacturing companies in the United States.
Absolutely. I mean, so first off, with the delay, again, doing something nobody's ever done before. You know, I mean, how many automotive companies or companies in general get started in industry doing something that's already been done, and they can just poach people that already know what to do and just kind of make a copycat of X, Y, or Z. Right? Tesla's not doing that. They're almost reinventing the wheel with these vehicles. It's no different with the semi. Completely understandable that they're delayed.
Yeah, and it is. It's completely new technology. I think the Tesla Semi is a big part of what drove the 4680 manufacturing and creation process, because the Semi was announced even before the Cybertruck.
That would make sense to me.
So, Trucker Alisher's here. Good to see you, Trucker. He says, hey guys, greetings today. He's in Prince Edward Island, Canada. Pete, this is a message for you. If you're watching, enjoy your vacation. Greet my 4 siblings in Germany and England. Love all you guys. Great show.
Thanks, Trucker.
Thank you, Trucker. And then John Surik, another comment for us, says PEI. What a great place. You know, there is one other thing that I thought we want to maybe can circle back to on the Tesla earnings call, and that was about their solar.
Okay.
And charging with solar. Didn't you hear some stuff about that?
He had talked briefly about the ability to earn money specifically for people in Texas.
Yeah.
They said that with their 500,000 units that they've installed, a good amount of those were in Texas, and they've actually begun paying residents. They were able to pay residents for the power that they put into their pseudo grid.
Incredible.
Which is, to my knowledge, the first. They're the only private company doing something like this. So that's the first time in history that something like this has happened. Yeah, I mean that's really all that they really got into on the Q&A.
I know that the Texas market is famously, or depending on your political bent, infamously unregulated. You know, a few years back, it made the news because in Texas there were spot power shortages, and so there were brownouts, and there were people who didn't get brownouts of power. Power companies were buying power on the spot market for as much as $1,000 a kilowatt hour. And then people were getting power bills just for running their air conditioning for the month. And they were getting $40,000 and $50,000 power bills and a notice of 30 days to pay, or the power would be cut off, of course. So this is that whole concept in reverse. Now you got people that have power walls that I assume that they're being paired with solar systems. So much power is being generated and stored in the power walls. Now they're being paid for their power. That's amazing.
It is, and I mean that's the way that hopefully, as I said earlier, hopefully this is the way the market goes, where we have power walls and solar, and we're all contributing to an overall grid marketplace where we're not at the whim of whomever is supplying our power on that day.
I think so. Tesla has launched a new app that they or a new feature on their app for their cars, and I think part of this is an integration to be able to utilize green power more effectively. In the earnings call, if you look at the numbers kind of below the mark that caught all the press, you find that their solar installations have been flat. The solar business itself isn't growing, but the Powerwall business, the battery side of that solar business, is growing leaps and bounds, just like the car business is. And the Charge on Solar feature takes advantage of these Powerwall installs. What it does is that it lets you, if you're a Tesla owner of a 2021 or newer Tesla vehicle, you can charge your vehicle with sunshine.
Wow.
So the way this works, it's available to anyone in the United States, but you have to have a combination of a Tesla vehicle that's 2021 or greater and a Tesla Powerwall, and they have to have software version 2023.26 in the car, as well as 23.12.10 for the Powerwall. Finally, you have to have the app version of it's like 4.22.5 or higher for all these. But here's how it works. Say you have your car, you plug it in every night. You want to charge every night. And then you say, okay, I'm going to have a minimum charge limit. I want my car to always be charged to 40%. That gets me enough to commute, whatever I want to do. Then you set a second limit. Now, this second limit is your charge from excess solar limit.
Okay.
That can, maybe you set that to 90%. What is going to happen is that your car will always maintain a 40% charge. If it's plugged in, it'll charge up to 40%. If you are able to take advantage of excess solar that's being generated and stored in your Powerwall, your car charge will go up all the way to 90%. You're basically guaranteeing that you will only be charging that extra 50% using green energy sources.
Okay. And in addition to that, you're now circumventing the whole selling energy back to the company for wholesale and then turning around and buying it back
at retail.
You're going straight from the sun to your car.
That's exactly right.
Cool.
That's exactly right. One of my favorite things to do, I bought a newer house a couple years back, and we went ahead and made the investment and put solar on the house. And it's completely changed our charging habits. I'm more likely now to try to do the manual version of what Tesla does. I'll simply take and either set the timer on my car to not start until 9:30 or 10 in the morning after the solar power is started to ramp up, or I'll just take and I'll plug in my car. If I don't want it on a timer and just want it to charge whenever, I'll plug in the car at 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the morning, because I know that I can be charging off my solar system and not charging off the grid. And that way I'm not selling my electricity back to the power company. For us in Arizona, it's 3 cents per kilowatt hour. I tell you what, I've got 2 electric cars. I have a large 2-story house, a relatively large 2-story house. I pay about the same amount per month that my friend over here, Jesse, pays for his 3rd-story apartment.
I know, it's not great for me. Yeah, I think my bill this month coming up is going to be like $240.
Oh my goodness.
See, now I am on a budget bill, but I know that my bill in June was $225. My bill in July probably will be higher because the temperatures have been so hot.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
been rough.
But I do not expect that I will be too far in excess of about $270 or $280.
I think you would probably have a better system than I do too, because my apartment is always in the sun because of where it's placed on the complex. It always gets the sun all day, and I leave it on 72, and it never gets below 76. It's running all the
man.
time.
Dang.
Yeah.
Oh, that's rough. That,
My heart goes out to you, Jesse.
yeah. Oof. We've got one more thing I'd like to talk about before we close things out.
I do still have some more from
Let's get
the
to some
earnings
more
if
of
we
that.
want to.
Yeah, let's finish up what you got from earnings.
All right. So I'll go a little quicker with it. And anybody who's watching, if you have any questions or comments on these specific things, let us know. We would love to go over it with you. So I'll jump right into it. So Tesla is, quote, continuing to invest in core technologies for AI, Optimus, Dojo, full self-driving. They talked a lot about their research and development. A nice quote came out from Elon in regard to that. They were having a discussion on how they're still profitable despite all the ramp ups for production, expansion of production, all the research and development, a whole bunch of other things. And the other gentleman running the questions with him made the comment, and yeah, we make we don't subcontract out for X, Y, or Z. And Elon said, yeah, that's right, we make our own stuff. Except he didn't say stuff. You can it's another word that starts with an S.
Yeah, he used the not safe for work version of stuff.
Correct. And he started laughing. He's, I probably shouldn't have said that on an earnings call, but yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, his humor was there.
Yeah.
But they're expanding their funding of core technologies across all fronts, which was good to see or good to hear. Their focus is on maximizing volume while focusing on cost reduction. So they're really getting into, okay, how can we mass produce X, Y, or Z while keeping those costs low?
Well, and you mentioned something about the combination of dollars coming in and research and capital investment and everything else. That was just amazing when we were talking in pre-show about that. Tesla has free cash flow of $1 billion, and they're building new factories, and they're creating a new platform for the Model 2, and we've got the Cybertruck that's brand new, and they're going into AI. And they're going into robots
and solar roofs
and
power walls,
solar roofs, and they, what don't they do? I guess maybe they don't do fusion energy yet, but yet.
Oh, what I was going to ask you, Mark, how I saw something about them having a crazy amount of cash on hand. Do you know what that was about? It's something like $20 billion cash was a part of that call. I don't know exactly. Sawyer Merritt was reporting that.
Yeah, large companies, for a large company the size of Tesla, $20 billion is not an overabundance of cash. They're trying to continue to maintain their free cash flow, but you look at what they have, and the reason I say it's not an overabundance, you've got places like Apple that sits on about $120 billion of cash at any given point in time. Microsoft sits on about $85 or $90 billion of cash. That's, Microsoft does things like spend $70 billion to acquire Activision because they want to do something with their money.
Oh my goodness.
Tesla had free cash flow of $1 billion this last quarter. Free cash flow basically outside of profits and expenses. Because when you make capital investment, you're spending money, but it's not an expense. It's an asset. You're trading one asset for another. So free cash flow means what kind of cash do you have left over at the end of the day or the end of the quarter after you spent it on all the things that you need to spend it on. And for Tesla, they had $1 billion. Really, really impressive to see that. They're not incurring debt to do that.
And listen to this. I'm just looking at some of Sawyer Merritt. He's really great on Twitter, by the way, if you guys want to go follow him. He does a lot of reporting. Tesla generated a record 11.4 million in revenue on average every hour in Q2 2023.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
It's
crazy.
just staggering numbers to think about when you go into it like that.
Well, it's one of those things that if you see $100 bill on the sidewalk, it's going to cost you more money to stop, bend over, pick up the $100 bill, put it in your pocket, than it is for you to just continue walking forward.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Yeah.
I might still pick it up.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, my time isn't quite at that value yet.
My time is not quite that valuable, at least not yet. So, anything else that you had on the call on the earnings?
Yeah, we can talk about the ventures that they're going on. They're anticipating they're anticipating being able to license their full self-driving out to other companies like they're doing with the NACS.
That's actually a really big one. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Do you know, are there any companies that have tried to do that yet? Pick up that license yet?
Nothing yet. Not that I'm aware of. I may have missed something, but I didn't hear anything. Elon didn't mention companies that are looking at that. I'll have to go look at the transcript, but I don't think that was
okay
a thing just yet. But I mean, I can see now a lot of companies Ford is doing their own full self-driving technology, right?
Yep.
Okay, and then I'm sure that every single company anticipating that they weren't going to be able to just hop on the ship with Tesla and their full self-driving probably began their own production of some sort of autonomous driving technology. So they're going to have a choice.
Sure.
Double down and go all in with their stuff, or abandon their project and hop on board with Tesla.
Oh, and I could see the potential of collaboration too. You know, Tesla has famously talked about how they'll share their patents. Now, it doesn't get as talked about, but what it is that it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
You know, it's when it comes to business intellectual property, Tesla's basically saying, I'll show you mine if you'll show me yours.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and they are in a lawsuit right now with a company over that, but that's a topic for another time.
That'll be a topic for another time, but it was, the company tried to do it one-sided, can't do that. Taking advantage of Tesla's patents and then suing Tesla for trying to take advantage of theirs.
Yep.
But at some point, just like the NACS standard, I could see a Ford or a Chevrolet or a Nissan or a Honda, maybe one of the Japanese automakers that seem to be behind the curve on some of these things, coming to Tesla saying, yeah, we're going to go ahead and license this and see what we can do. Niles even chimes in on that one and says, I think that Elon mentioned a major OEM for FSD. So there could be something in the works.
I'm going to go ahead and say that the first company to publicly talk about or to accept it would be the same ones who first publicly did NACS, and that's going to be Aptera.
Oh, yeah,
Let say Aptera might be first ones to be like, yep, that's what we want.
Yeah, that might be. I don't know if they would make the major OEM comment like
no,
like Niles talked about, but yeah, it's very possible.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, well, so to close out, there is one kind of fun article I wanted to bring up real quick. Jesse, I just recently put something in the images folder of a Cyberquad. If you wanted to pull that up, Tesla is starting commercial delivery of its Cyberquad 4-wheel ATV.
That's exciting.
And they're again using the theme of cute. This is kind of a cute little thing. I know we've seen pictures of the Cyberquad in the back of a CyberTruck before. This is the one that they're going to be delivering, and it is commercially ready in China.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
The Cyberquad is going to sell for about $1,700. So price is right. But the specs, maybe not so much.
Yeah, let's hear them.
150-pound limit. So if you weigh more than 150 pounds, sorry.
Yeah, I'm not riding that.
All right, raise your hand if you are in this room and you're out of that category. Everybody's raising their hand.
It's a kid's quad.
Yeah, it's a kid's quad. It has an 8-mile range. Has about an hour-and-a-half battery life. It has a max speed of 10 to 12 miles an hour. So, if your kids basically for your kid to run around the driveway and pretend they're a driver and stuff like that, this is perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, it's currently banned for sale in the United States.
That's upsetting.
That's
not that I was chomping at the bit to buy Sierra a Cyber Quad right now, but why not?
Yeah, I mean, heck yeah. And she's a little young to be able to sit on it and drive it so far, but
Sure.
Do you know what makes it illegal?
I don't at this point in time. I think it's more that they haven't taken it through the various regulatory hurdles in the United States yet. It's being manufactured in China, and so they're marketing it to the Chinese market first. That doesn't mean it won't be available at some point in the future, but it's not right now.
Okay, I got one more thing that I think you guys will like here.
Sure.
Pull this up. This is in a picture from the same Sawyer's Twitter account. I just thought it was pretty cool, showing off the CyberTruck. Now, I don't know if this is real or if this is AI or what, but he's showing it doing a little off-roading.
Nice.
That is a real picture, Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
On the earnings call, they had 4 pictures of the Cybertruck, and this is the second of those 4 that we've seen. One of the things that I like about this picture, obviously going through mud is always cool.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of a sense of what's going to happen with that great big windshield wiper. You can see the streaks.
Yeah.
I think that might be why they're testing it there. That kind of almost looks like Arizona.
It looks like it looks like a southern desert locale. If it were Arizona, you would not have mud. You would.
True.
Your water would evaporate
That
just
takes
about
us
when
out
it
of
hit the ground.
Well, I was going to say that too. I don't think that windshield wiper is working real well in this shot here.
That is one of the main comments that people have said about this particular shot. They're like, "Oh my gosh, dude, that windshield wiper is not working."
Well, I mean, technically, only the driver needs to see.
Well, technically, yeah.
Good point.
Although the U.S. federal government would tend to disagree, they say you need to have at least 80% of the windshield cleared with windshield wipers. So I don't know if they've reached 80% there or not. Although with the size of that windshield, it's possible. It's definitely possible. I like that picture though. Here in the desert Southwest, I used to live when I was in high school in South Central Alaska. My family still lives up there, in fact. And one of the things, and I did do this once, you could take in South Central Alaska when it's really, really cold outside, you could throw water up in the air, and that water, if it's boiling water, that water would vaporize.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever hit the ground, much of it would not at all. That would just become a cloud of vapor and then float off in the distance. The little bit that did hit the ground would hit the ground as ice crystals.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Arizona, with as hot as we are, I think we could do the same thing. If you started with a cup of hot water and you threw it up into the air, more of it might hit the ground. It would still be liquid, but you give it about 10 or 15 seconds and the ground's dry.
Oof.
Gone.
Instantly evaporates.
Uh-huh. I would say there's no question about that.
We'll have to try that.
If you want to handle some boiling water and toss it, be my guest. I think it's boiling enough outside.
Well, I think all I have to do to get boiling water is just put it on the dash of my car for a
That's
couple
true.
hours.
Get the water out of the hose out front. It should be boiling at this point.
Oh yeah. That's good friend went swimming this last weekend, and the pool water was 96 degrees.
Yep.
So and a hot tub usually sits between 100 and 105. So this was just a regular swimming pool that was basically hot tub temperature.
Yeah.
So
I'll pass.
Well, you know what? With that, guys, I think we're ready to wrap it up for today.
And Mark, one thing I just want to leave some guys with a thought here.
Yes.
You know how you guys were talking about FSD being licensed just a little bit ago, and then also the NACS adoption. Just want people to remember that when they're thinking about, maybe how we were mentioning much earlier in the show, how Tesla's only been around, EVs have only really been around for 15 or 20 years. Tesla is the one that's creating all this technology and licensing it to these 100-year-old OEMs. They're all using Tesla's technology in all these different areas, and eventually they're all going to be using Tesla's AI, I'm sure, too, and their robots and their factories. So just keep that in mind when you are thinking about how far Tesla still has to go.
You know, that's a good point, Jesse. 20 years ago, every PC of significance, I would call it, ran Microsoft Windows. So much so that there were antitrust legislation that went out, and U.S. government lost in this case. They wanted to get rid of Windows. A little upstart company named Google decided, we're going to put out our own browser. We're going to just do it for free, and we're going to put out applications that don't depend on an operating system. They changed the game. 10 years ago, Google was being threatened with antitrust legislation. You know, in the course of 10 years. You go back to 2008, Tesla is a struggling company. Today, 15 years later, Tesla is the largest, in money terms, automotive manufacturer in the United States and one of the largest in the world.
Yeah. I was going to tell you, Mark, real quick, too. The market cap of Tesla is 3 times that of their closest competitor, which is, I think, is Nissan or one of the Japanese automotive company, or Honda, maybe.
Toyota?
Yeah.
I think it's Toyota. Yeah, so they're if from market cap standpoint, they're the largest company in the world.
Yeah.
And I fully believe that Tesla is going to meet its goal of producing 20 million cars a year by 2030.
Yeah, I mean, Elon said that we will come through in the long term, but we can't control the short term. And in that Q&A, there's nobody that's you can count on quite like Tesla to pull through with stuff.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna couple comments we'll close out with. John Ayers, to do the same thing in my location here in Arizona, we're in Phoenix. It would need to be super cold water. John, I get your point, because it's super hot water that vaporizes in the cold. If you have super cold water in the hot, I don't think the end result would be any different. You might see a little bit more on the ground, but it would still evaporate really quickly. And then Niles also says, a guy threw a cup of water in the air in Alaska got 58 million YouTube views. So go ahead, you guys. Maybe we have an idea here.
Maybe so.
Maybe so.
Viral action.
A little bit of viral action for us. With that, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We love the comments. It's fun when we have a lot of news like we did today. Thank you, Richard, for all that you helped, and with yourself, Aaron, as well, and you, Jesse. Great team effort.
And thank you, Mark, for leading the show.
Well, I miss Pete.
Yeah.
I'm good. It's been a good show, but I look forward to him being back.
I agree.
But we will be back next week.
We will be back next week, 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight, Mountain Standard Time. Look forward to seeing you on Tuesday.
See you Tuesday.